Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles because we're going to talk about Alien Romulus, and she did not go see Alien Romulus with us. We went last night. I took the kids to go see it, and yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna give some thoughts on it. I'm gonna give a bit of a review on it, and you know, I've been talking about it some on Twitter, and I'm gonna preface this by saying it's 75% of a good movie, but that last act, that was something special. So we're gonna talk about this. Before we get into any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Go out to wherever you find podcasts. Listen to the Clownfish TV podcast, to the Derezzed podcast. And yeah, I'm going to give a general overview of what I thought of the movie before getting into some spoiler territory for those of you who have not seen it. Plot twist, it does have an alien in it. It actually has more than one alien in it. But yeah, I would say I would actually rank it as maybe the fourth best Alien movie. I've seen people put lists together, and it seems like a lot of people are putting it right behind Alien and Aliens. I don't know if I would rank it that high. I think I might actually put Prometheus before this one. I can't believe I'm saying that. Alien 3 I did not like. Alien Resurrection I didn't like very much. But it was competent. I mean, it was. So there are some things I really appreciate about this movie. And I'll just give a score right up front so we can get into the spoilers a little quicker. I would say I give it a 6 or a 7. I think it was competent. I don't feel like if you go see this movie, you're going to be angry. You're going to feel like you got ripped off or anything. I think it's a very competent movie. Now, that being said, it's kind of like that horse drawing, you know, the meme where it starts out being this beautifully drawn rendering of a horse, and then as it continues, it just gets worse and worse until it becomes like a stick figure. Yeah, that's kind of what happens in my opinion. That's kind of what happens in this movie. The beginning is very, very good. The beginning of this movie is, you know, 100% a love letter to the original Alien movie. It feels like it could have been filmed in the 70s or 80s. They got everything right. They had a lot of practical effects, a lot of callbacks to that original movie. That the creepy factor is definitely here. And this really did feel like a movie from another time. They went to a lot of trouble to get it right, to make it feel like this movie could have taken place, you know, in the 70s or early 80s. Hell, we even had a character smoking. You know, I don't think you're allowed to do that in Disney movies, but I could appreciate that. We had some wonderful acting. I think the actors were all, for the most part, pretty good. We, of course, you know, had annoying people that you wanted to get gone, and some people that were actually you're rooting for. But we all know how alien movies typically end, and it's with like one person surviving, right? What, maybe two, and that is the case here. There's a pretty high body count, and there really wasn't anything. Until the last act, there wasn't anything like out of the ordinary. It was very much like, yes, this exists in the Alien universe. This is definitely the same universe as Alien and Aliens. And, you know, it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was just, you know, putting things together well. It's kind of like, you know, I watch Gordon Ramsay and his different cooking shows, and he's like, you don't have to get fancy with the cooking. You just have to do it well. And you can do wonders with, you know, salt, pepper, and butter. And it works. And in this case, the first couple acts of the movie work. I think we've, without getting into too many spoilers, we've got, you know, the typical setup. We've got a bunch of hapless worker drones trapped on, in this case, it's a space station. We've got a rogue synthetic. We've got face huggers and xenomorphs and body horror and lots of claustrophobia and dark hallways and, you know, tense moments and all that. And it works really well. But that last act, I just am like, it felt like a totally different movie. Without getting too spoilery, it felt like we went from a love letter to the first two Alien movies to the last couple of Alien movies at the end, and tonally it felt very different. I'm just gonna put it there. But like I said, I would give it a 6 or a 7. I think it's definitely worth seeing. It's definitely better than Alien 3 and Resurrection, in my opinion. You know, I have no regrets about seeing it. I just kind of left the theater scratching my head at that last act. So now I'm going to get into spoiler territory. For those of you who are still around, and I hate doing reviews like this because I have to like dance around the issue, or dance around the plot points. So you've been warned. We're going to get into spoilers. So yeah, this movie takes place between Alien, the original Alien, and Aliens. And I believe it's 20 years after Alien, and they find the original xenomorph, which was jettisoned into space. Well, now somehow it cocooned itself, and they find the body of it, the cocoon of it, and they apparently took the original xenomorph to the space station, which is Romulus and Remus. I guess it's two halves of a space station, and they do experiments on it, and this is where it's going to lose some people, because you don't find this out until later in the movie. But the whole purpose of this is to reverse engineer the aliens to extract the black goo, the infamous black goo from Prometheus. And this is where I think it's going to lose some people, because there are definite ties to Prometheus. Now, I actually like Prometheus. I hated Covenant. I like Prometheus. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of promise here to explore other parts of the Alien franchise universe and not just be running around inside dark corridors on freighters, you know, forever. And they blew it, because immediately we do Covenant, and then Covenant was kind of like Gremlins 2, where we had all these like weird ass xenomorph variations. And then, oh yeah, David created the xenomorphs. Well, apparently not. Or he goes back to, they're not really clear on if David's involved in any of this or not. He goes back to Weyland-Yutani with his findings, or he beams them to him, or something. I don't know. Because David would have been, I believe, if my timeline is correct, Covenant would have been about 10 years before this. So that's what they're doing on the station, as we find out later. And we have a bunch of hapless young adults that are trying to leave a Weyland-Yutani mining colony for this planet with sunshine and rainbows and kittens and stuff. And the lead character, Rain, I think her name was Rain, she has a brother, which is not actually a brother. It's actually a defective synthetic that her dad reconditioned to kind of serve as a protector brother, whatever. And his name is Andy. And at first you're thinking Andy's just like this, like this special needs guy. Like, oh, it's like Rain Man, Rain and Andy. Okay, it's like Rain Man. And it's like, no, he's actually a synthetic. He's just lacking. He's a very special synthetic. But the guy that played him, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was really good. Because he goes from, again, spoilers. If you're listening this far, we're already spoiling you. But he goes from playing Special Andy, Simple Jack, to another Machiavellian, devious synthetic. Well, he's not really as devious as Ash or David, but he definitely is a company man, and he's got a purpose, which is he is effectively reprogrammed to get the black goo to HQ, because that's the experiments they've been doing. Now, so they wind up on the space station because of something. They're looking for cryo sleep chambers to make this trip to the planet with sunshine and rainbows and kittens. And of course, bad things happen. And, we have to set up at the beginning that there's anti-gravity technology that's on the fritz, because that's important later in the movie, and also set up that one of the young adults is pregnant. That is also important for the third act of the movie. How you show the gun on the shelf before you shoot the gun later in the, so that's important. Those two things are important for the third act, which comes off the freaking rails. And first, it's great. They're kind of just bumbling their way around this space station, they're trying to find more fuel for the stasis pod so they can make this trip. Apparently, I think they only had 3 years worth of magic cryo fuel, and they needed like 9 years worth. So they're going to try to fill up the pods so they can all, go to this station together. And they need the android Andy Simple Jack to to be able to get in and out of the station and to talk to Mother and all that. Well, so everything's fine until they bumble into the lab where all the xenomorph embryos or facehugger embryos are stored or have been stored. And apparently, as things tend to happen in alien movies, they experimented, they tried to play God, and they got destroyed by the xenomorphs, and that's why the space station is kind of just like adrift. And they find, well, one, there's a whole bunch of facehuggers. There's like a whole lot of facehuggers. But they find another synthetic, right? And it's badly mangled, and you're thinking it's going to be a cameo. No. And this is kind of where, for me, the movie started to kind of unravel a little bit, because it was like, at first it was like, oh, that's really cool. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're just going to make this a major plot point. So the synthetic they find is Ian Holm. Yeah, I know he's dead, but he's back thanks to Disney's Snapchat AI technology. Somehow Ash has returned, except he's not Ash. He's Rook, like Bishop, but Rook. So now he's Rook, and Rook is an evil son of a bitch like Ash. And he repurposes Andy to help him get the black goo. And he's also there for exposition. And he's like half the man he used to be, because he's all like half-eaten and stuff, because they like to do that with the synthetics, just to show the milk all over the place. You think it's milk. I don't know. But yeah, so he's evil just like Ash. It's like somebody needs to discontinue this line of synthetics, but artificial people, or whatever they call themselves. But it's off-putting in a way, because at first I thought that was a really cool cameo. Like, oh, they have a science officer who looks like Ash too. That makes sense, because we saw multiple Davids in Covenant. But no, he's in it for like a good chunk of the movie. And all the TLC that went into the practical effects, like this, like I don't know how they did the spaceship, but the ships look like they were models, like they would have looked in the 70s and 80s, and it just had that even the font and everything they were using in the credits, like everything about this screamed late 70s, early 80s, and I loved it. And then we got to the Snapchat filter Ian Holm, and I'm like, oh my god, if it was a cameo done from a distance, like, oh yeah, he does this thing, whatever he has to do, and then he deactivates, and we like, oh, that was a cool cameo because it shows it's the same universe. No, he's like the main bad guy. Like, I'm like, and he's just like half of his synthetic hooked up to the computer, and he's telling Andy what to do, and I'm like, and they keep zooming in on his face. I'm like, God, don't do that, because he looks really fake. I mean, I'm talking like worse than Grand Moff Tarkin, Princess Leia fake. And that took me out of it, like immediately. Like, I was like, I'm okay with it for a cameo to tie it back to Alien. But like, oh, this son of a bitch is in the movie, the whole movie. Like, he's in it a lot. So that was kind of strike one for me. And I'm like, okay, I was cool with this until now. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, can't we get another synthetic? And some people were like, why can't we have another David model or something? And then I'm thinking to myself, well, they're not doing David because they want to kind of distance themselves from Prometheus, right? And Covenant, because a lot of people didn't like those movies. Oh no, we're going all in. We're going all in on Prometheus and Covenant. Yeah, because the whole purpose of the station is to make the black goo that everybody loves so much. The black goo that has really nebulous rules that we don't know exactly how or why it mutates. It just does. Or how long it takes to affect people. It just does. Yeah, well, that stuff's back, and it becomes a major plot device. Not only because they're reverse engineering it and they're trying to smuggle it off the station, because they're trying to sell it as a vaccine. They're trying to sell it as a cure-all for mortality, but all it does is mutate people and rats and stuff. So anyway, yada yada yada, people get killed, yada yada, chest bursting, yada yada. Oh, the pregnant lady. Yeah, we think she gets killed. Nah, she doesn't actually get killed. She gets very badly burnt. Now, if she gets wounded, she gets a stinger through her shoulder or whatever, and so she's bleeding profusely. So they're like, hey, we've got a great idea. Let's inject her with the black goo that the evil robot said is a cure-all for mortality, and that'll fix her right up because she's pregnant, right? But they don't do it. They're like, no, the lead girl, Rain, she's like, yeah, I don't trust this black goo. Smart girl, right? It's like the smartest damn one on the station. Yeah, I don't trust just injecting my friend with random black goo when she's pregnant. We'll take our chances and try. So they don't. Well, for some reason later on, she decides to inject herself with it. What could possibly go wrong? Well, after we have a fight scene right out of Aliens, which this movie just kind of like goes through and like it, obviously they ticked off all the check boxes. Like they took all the best bits or whatever they thought were the best bits of all the Alien movies, including the ones that weren't very good, and they threw them in a blender and pressed puree. And that's kind of what happened. So we have a scene that's very reminiscent of Aliens with guns and, you know, xenomorph heads exploding and stuff. But then again, all the TLC for the practical effects kind of goes out the window because now we're dealing with zero gravity. Remember that from the beginning with the zero gravity? It was on the fritz. Yeah. So we're dealing with zero gravity, and they have to kind of work their way through the floating acid blood. And it looks kind of like a video game level. And the blood is obviously CGI. And again, it kind of takes me out of it because they went to great lengths to get the look right, to get, you know, all the practical effects. And then as soon as Ian Holm shows up in the CGI blood, I'm like, yeah, okay, that looks kind of weird. So anyway, they get to the ship and they're like, oh yeah, we're all safe. Okay, so it's Rain is left, and Andy, the robot who is no longer evil, is left. And the pregnant lady's left, and they're going to go into cryostasis. Like, you know, they always do at the end of an Alien movie. They're going to go into cryostasis and sail off into the sunset, probably to get murdered between movies somehow. You know, ask Newt, ask Dr. Shaw how that worked. No. So, of course, you know, we can't quite go to sleep yet because, the pregnant lady who injected herself with the black goo from Prometheus, yeah, she's given birth. Guess what? Did you like Alien Resurrection? Did you like that with the newborn? Because that's what you're getting. You're getting another one of those, except way freakier. Like it looks like a cross between an engineer and the xenomorph from the original movie, and it laughs and smiles and wants to drink its mama's milk. Yeah, it's pretty horrifying, and it really comes out left field. Like you can see them setting it up throughout the whole movie, but like I really didn't want to see it. In fact, my son was like, "Yeah, I thought they were setting her up to maybe be the queen or something. You know, like she's a human injected with the stuff, and she's given birth. Maybe she'll like morph into the alien queen in the stasis pod and." That's where the queen comes from, because I don't think we ever got an answer as to where the queen comes from. I don't know. It's the giant naked baby man. They have a big fight with the giant naked baby man, and they're in like the rings of Saturn, the planet. Looks like Saturn, and there's a whole lot of like jump scaring going on. Tonally, it felt like a totally different movie at that point, and it was very, very CGI. And then they get rid of the baby, and then they can go into cryo sleep, and then they can sail off to the planet of sunshine and kittens and rainbows or whatever. But yeah, until the ending, until Ian Holm, it was obvious that fake Ian Holm had a lot of screen time until they decided to pull the Prometheus black goo card. And I like Prometheus. I don't want my Prometheus felt like it was going down a totally different road than Alien, and I don't like my 1979 Alien mingling with my Prometheus, which I know is stupid because it's supposed to be a prequel, right? But it feels like it's kind of its own thing. And yeah, we just played that. We just did the Prometheus thing. We did the Alien shoot. Oh yeah, the robot. Yeah, he says, you know, Sigourney Weaver's catchphrase. You bitch. Yeah, he says that because we got to say the thing. That took me out of it too. Like, why would the robot who has never sworn any time during the movie say the thing that Sigourney Weaver says just because fan service? And I'm like, no. So yeah, 75% of a good movie, 6 or 7 is what I would give it. If you like alien movies, trust me, there are a lot worse. There are a lot worse ones out there than this one. I'm just saying. But it's not the best thing ever either. And I had such hope for it too. First like half hour, 45 minutes, I'm like, yeah, I'm really liking this. I'm liking that they're going back to basics. I'm liking the practical effects. I'm liking this. And then they just kind of couldn't help themselves, I guess. And here it is. But it's okay. There are definitely a lot worse alien movies out there. It's probably worth seeing on the big screen. I think CGI Ian Holm is going to definitely weird people out. He doesn't look quite right. But I guess they can excuse it and say, well, you know, he's damaged. You know, but no, his face just does not look right. It just doesn't look right. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe. We will talk later.